All right, good Thursday afternoon, everyone. Thanks for stopping by for a check of your forecast. It is October 9th, the year of our Lord 2025. We are right at 4 o'clock this afternoon here in Amarillo. It's a sunny and warm afternoon. Hopefully, you're out there enjoying some of this abnormally warm weather. Again, mid October, usually it's nice in the afternoons, but kind of chilly in the mornings, and we didn't even get into the 50s in most areas early this morning. So it has definitely been a mild start, at least for the month. We'll go ahead and probably see some changes by the time we get closer to November, but things look quiet for our pattern, at least in terms of precipitation. But there are a couple of things that we are going to talk about. Breaking down some windier weather coming through this weekend. We do get a slim chance of moisture on Monday with some remnant moisture from what is currently Tropical Storm Priscilla there in the North and Central Pacific. So that is something that we'll talk about as well. Let's go ahead and take a look outside. This is our sky cam in Dumas, New Mexico, or Dumas, Texas, excuse me. You can see a few of those low level cumulus clouds out there, but otherwise a lot of sunshine here across the southern high plains. The temperature in Amarillo is 81 right now, 88 in Guyman, Oklahoma, 79 in Clovis, and 80 degrees down in Dimmitt. Winds, it just kind of depends on which side of the panhandles you're on. The south side of the region, not too bad. Winds at 5 to 15 miles an hour. Gets a bit breezier in the river valley, and then areas north of there up towards Dumas, Dalhart, Perryton, Stratford, Spearman. Some of those places are seeing winds sustained around 20, so kind of breezy this afternoon. Here's your planner for tomorrow. We're going to see another warm day. Temperatures likely starting in the upper 50s, low 60s. We're going to be about 10 degrees warmer than what is considered normal for mid-October. We will return to the 80s in the afternoon. Generally a lot of sunshine, but we may see some of those fair weather cumulus clouds come back into play later in the day. And another thing that we'll watch is there's going to be some higher clouds coming in out of New Mexico that could be fairly thick. We'll see if they can be enough to maybe stunt some of those afternoon temperatures a few degrees, but overall, not expecting them to impact us here in the Amarillo area too much, especially for areas further south. They will start out in New Mexico and should continue to push up to the northeast in that flow aloft. As we get into your Saturday morning, we are expecting temperatures to be another warm start. We'll be around 60 degrees. We'll climb back up into the 80s in the afternoon. Notice there are some pockets of rain being depicted on the computer model as we get into Saturday evening. Again, this is just kind of that leading edge of that disturbance, or at least the remnants of what would be Priscilla coming through the Four Corners region. They're going to have a very wet pattern over the next several days there in the Four Corners. Areas like Arizona, Utah, southwest Colorado, some of those mountainous ranges could see several inches of rain. That's going to cause some flooding issues in some of those areas. But for us, as we head into the weekend, that low going to be probably too far to the north. So we'll get what we call the dry slot. We are expecting breezier conditions on Saturday that will increase probably an elevated concern for wildfire weather. The grass is still relatively green. We have not seen our first freeze yet this year. And so it's not a huge concern, at least not right now, for those fire conditions to be a big problem, but it's not something that you can take completely off of the table. It is definitely going to be a very, very breezy day on Saturday, if not outright windy. Winds should be sustained around 20-25, but we are expecting those gusts to generally be around 40 miles an hour, probably a little stronger the further north you get, closer to the low as it swings through the northern and central plains, probably a little weaker winds as you get further to the south, but still very strong even for our standard. So let's go ahead and take a look at your next weather maker. So here's what would be left of Priscilla as we get into Monday. Again, it's just kind of a shortwave trough in the mean flow of this bigger trough that's going to dive down the west coast moving into the middle of October. Now, the question I think will be, after we get that slim chance of rain Monday, what happens after that with this big ridge centered over southern and central Texas? If it becomes fairly pronounced, it's probably going to keep this low from getting too close to the panhandles. That's going to allow for some additional rain and snow in the mountains there in the Four Corners. The Sierra Nevada is going to see a lot of snow here probably over the next 5 to 10 days. But whether or not we get that ridge to break down is going to determine if we get the dry slot, windy weather, warm conditions, or if this low can maybe get more of an eastern component to it as it moves across the country. If it can get close enough, then maybe we'd get put into a better opportunity for some precipitation towards the middle of October. Right now, through the next 5 days, things look generally quiet, kind of dry. You, again, have that chance for rain moving into Monday, but odds are going to be better favored for our eastern New Mexico counties. Clovis, Tucumcari, you guys may see anywhere from a tenth to as much as a half inch of rain, which is about normal through a 5 day period, but probably minimal amounts, if any, rainfall expected over in the eastern panhandles over the next half a week or so. Here's the outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. Again, we're going to be in that battleground zone. Again, the further west and northwest you get, probably the better your odds are going to be at staying wet. With that trough there over near California, big ridge centered over Texas, going to keep this general region drier than average. So we're kind of splitting the difference here in the Panhandles region. So maybe some precipitation to talk about next week up in the northwest, drier conditions down towards Childress and Paducah. One of the bigger stories will definitely be the heat. It's going to return after a weak front early next week. We may have a day or two where temperatures are average, but as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and again on into next weekend, it definitely looks like that temperature is going to spike back up into the 80s. Now, again, we'll wait and see how this trough translates or progresses east through the second half of October. This ridge eventually will break down, and when it does, it's going to open the door for some of these to kick east across the country, and that might be when we start getting some more of those potent cold fronts as we get into the end of October. But for now, things look to be pretty warm, generally speaking, and probably a very limited shot for rain for us, at least here closer to home. As you get west, though, definitely a lot of water expected over the next several days. Here's our 7 day tracker. We're going to be in the 80s moving into the weekend. Again, winds should be sustained around 20 to 25 most afternoons, Saturday and Sunday for us. And then we could see gusts as high as 40 to 45. Best chance of rains Monday, 30%. Again, that cold front and the cloud cover should keep us near normal for those temperatures. Lower 50s in the mornings, 70s in the afternoon, and then we warm back up into the 80s as we get into the back end of next week. But that is all we have for you this afternoon. Again, enjoy the rest of your day. It's going to be nice and warm out there, so take advantage of it while you can. Again, normally our first freeze is mid-October. Looks like we'll be a little past the normal for that this year.